finally got around to making the summary video of our trip in Texas. I think I had to, refresh my digestive system after 11 days of barbecue. Spent a little time in the lovely sunny California sunshine, and think about it, and review with my lovely camera person, who is once again fulfilling her important role, and just talk about some of the different, our overall impressions of the trip. And then after this video, I'm going to make another video, which is I'm going to go through my process of prepping and cooking and eating a brisket with some friends. Not going to compare. Well, I technically will be comparing my brisket to that brisket, but it won't compare. We had a great time in Texas, and when going into it, I know both of us, maybe more you than me, I think we thought, gee, after a couple of days, that everything was going to taste the same, right? And I got that from my friends over there at Amazing Ribs. By the way, if you're not a member of the Pitmaster Club over on AmazingRibs.com, I highly recommend it. And the idea was everything was going to taste the same, and that happened sometimes. But honestly, I was amazed at the differences between all of the different types of brisket. Just the different ways that people prep the brisket, sliced it. There were some issues. What's that?
Seasoned it.
Seasoned it. Yeah. Some were saltier than others. Some were more tender than others, and some were sliced in a way that I didn't like, as you saw in the videos if you watch them. So I've made some notes, and I've conferred with my fellow brisket eater over here, and we're going to give sort of our overall thoughts. Well, first off, it was so good. You're so lucky, those of you that live within driving distance of all of that. In some sense, maybe I'm lucky I don't live there, because I'd be 400 pounds. I recently made a trip to what I think is probably the best barbecue we have in San Diego, and the brisket was okay. The ribs didn't even come close. And so you're just so lucky that you have so many to choose from, and you can fight all day long over which one's better or not better. So with the having said that, I just wanted to drum roll. I don't know if we put a drum roll in there. So I will say that the best overall experience that we had at a barbecue place, which included the brisket, the ribs, the pork ribs, we didn't get the beef ribs, the sides, and the fact that we got free beer as part of it, that would be La Barbecue. Although I've been told from locals that they call it LA Barbecue, which I don't understand that at all, because it literally just translates to the barbecue in Spanish. But it was great. Literally everything there knocked it out of the park. The sides were awesome. The brisket was awesome. The ribs were awesome, and they give you free beer. I mean, the line was possibly one of the was it the longest we waited? I think it was.
No, maybe. Not the longest.
Oh, well, definitely not the longest,
yes.
but it was.
But it's close second.
It was a close second. The best beef rib that we had was what we were told before we went into it was Louis Mueller's, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's Louis, and it looks like Mueller, which is, it's a bit of a drive to get there, but I think the beef rib was absolutely worth it. I think it's possible that a close second would have been, if not a tied, would have been La Barbecue. We saw their beef rib, sort of after we'd already eaten, and it looked like they did the same thing. And the difference that Louis Mueller does is that they cook each beef rib individually. So you get a nice bark all the way around the rib, versus the way everybody else does it, which is they cook the entire rack and then they slice the rib as you eat it. The best brisket, and this isn't going to come as a surprise to a lot of people, it was hands down Franklin's. Honestly, going into this process, I wanted to find some brisket better than Franklin's. I wanted to be, because I'm such a fan of Aaron Franklin but only remotely, only based on what other people have said, what other reviewers have said, what other, famous people have said. I wanted to find something better than Franklin's, and honestly, one other company came, or one other barbecue place came slightly close, but honestly, it really was not that close. The overall presentation, the flavor, the smoke ring, the way he cuts the barbecue, the consistency of all of the slices that we had. And I want to even point out that we didn't even order fatty brisket there. We just ordered brisket. Other places, that if they gave us a choice, we always ordered the fatty. We just got sort of the standard, which it had some of the point and some of the flat in each slice that we had. Anyway, I just thought that Franklin's was amazing. The tenderest barbecue was Valentina's, and the flavor was awesome. I don't remember, was it Valentina's that you thought was a little peppery, right?
But it's delicious.
But the tenderness was crazy. It's also my favorite video that we made. It's the one that you couldn't help but making noises while you were watching me eating the barbecue. That's my favorite video that we made. But it was because it was so tender. And this is, again, my subjective opinion. My favorite sort of tenderness level of a brisket is that point that if it was any tenderer, that it would turn into pot roast. That it's still, it's still consistent enough that you can slice it with a knife, and also it passes the pull test. It holds its own weight, but you can easily pull it apart. It couldn't have been any more tender and still qualified as a proper brisket. So thumbs up for Valentina's. And then for the meat candy category, the best pork-based burnt ends was Heim in Fort Worth, which was, admittedly it was our first, but it was good enough that we went and bought more, right? we loved it so much, we went and got more. I think we're in agreement that a close second was Killen's in Dallas, right? No, I'm sorry, Killen's in Houston area. And their pork-based burnt ends were second best, but I think
superior than any others.
The beef, the brisket burnt ends were better than any other brisket burnt ends. By the way, a lot of times we went to burnt end places, or we went to a barbecue place, and we'd say, do you have burnt ends? And they go, yes. They would hand us just sliced off, cubed up portions of the point. Nothing else done to it, maybe some barbecue sauce poured on it, but it wasn't burnt ends. That was kind of odd. I also wanted to give a shout out to Sam's. We ended up, just because of everything that happened, we had 11 days of eating nothing but barbecue. The folks at Sam's couldn't have been nicer to us. We had just already eaten. We just couldn't eat any more barbecue. So we didn't do a full review of Sam's, but they took us in, they showed us around the kitchen, they showed us their process of their smoker. Their ribs were delicious, the brisket was delicious. We didn't do a video on them, and I think we missed out as a result, but there's only so much brisket that you can have. And then, and oddly, in a video that's about barbecue, I'm going to throw a shout out to a company called, it was Salata, right? I'm going to throw a shout out to a company called Salata, which my lovely wife and camera person found, which was, so we would have barbecue for lunch, and then we would have this giant salad for dinner. And honestly, that's the only way we survived, I think, those 11 days. But and they're throughout at least the area of Texas that we went to. So I'm looking forward to doing some other reviews of other restaurants and other barbecues. Even I'm going to do a formal review of this barbecue place in San Diego. It's called Grand Ole Barbecue and Asado, and so I'm looking for doing a full review of that, and maybe actually an entire channel dedicated just to this. But I want to thank all the folks at AmazingRibs.com, the folks at the Pitmaster Group, for encouraging me along this and giving me suggestions. And I don't know what else to say, but let's have some beef.